Hey, Stu.
Tom, how are you?
Good, bud. Tactical Fitness Report with Stu Smith, podcast number 10. This is our Ask Stu segment. So I'm going to be moving papers around today because we've got about 4 pages of notes here, Stu, so I can ask you. But this one is about letting our audience here send in via email to you questions they have. So give them that email one more time, Stu.
Yeah, the email stu@stewsmith.com.
There we go.
Spelled just like my name, Stewsmith.
That's pretty easy. All right, bud, you ready?
Yes.
Here's the first one. I'm a strength and conditioning coach at a local university. My question comes from joining weight room strength with running economy. Have you ever come across a running program that will not hinder weight room strength gains? I know this is a random question coming from a strength coach, but if I cannot come up with an answer myself, I look to those I respect in the field for help. That's a pretty nice compliment you got there, Stu.
That's very nice.
So this comes from an article. If people want to see the details, it's called Can You Train Strength and Endurance? You can look that up on Google by matching it with Stu's name.
Yeah, that is probably one of the more complicated questions that I get. And it's just because here's the deal. It depends on your definition of optimal. Sure, you can be strong and you can have endurance, but what are you training for? Are you training to deadlift and squat 500 pounds, right, for a powerlifting meet, or just for pure strength goals? Or are you training to run a marathon? Now, the things I have seen in the past is you could do both. However, it's typically a gut check for the endurance side, especially if you're a more of a powerlifting strength guy anyway. You just go run a marathon as a gut check, and it's not going to be pretty. It's probably going to hurt. And yes, there are people out there who are phenomenal hybrid athletes that can do both. But typically the answer is I don't try to lift 1 rep max super heavy weight while I'm trying to get faster in timed runs or event runs that are typically longer.
So you break the training up, and this gets back to your periodization, right?
Absolutely. You can do strength and endurance training. Absolutely. Just spread it throughout the year. So if you are in a running season, for instance, a cross-country person, that person doesn't want to be doing super heavy weight training at the time. Now, you can still do leg training. Something we love to do in the middle of our running cycles when we are trying to work on our faster and longer runs is doing leg PT. So running leg PT. So it's like you run a 1/4 mile at your goal running pace, and you stop and do squats and lunges, or you run up and down a hill, stop and do squats and lunges. So you can still work your legs and get stronger. It's just a little bit different, more of a muscle stamina focus than it is a 1 rep max focus.
So the lesson on this one, if I hear what you're saying, Stu, is that it doesn't work well to train both at the same time. That it's better to break them into separate pieces and do them separately. Is that the net message?
Yes, if you want to be really good at both.
Okay.
And when I say really good, borderline great at both, I have seen best results in my experience by cycling through them. So you go through a weightlifting cycle, less running. You go through a running cycle, less weightlifting.
Gotcha.
But it can all be done in a 6-month period. It can be 2 12-week periods that you do this. And at the end of 6 months, you are faster and stronger.
So Stu, what role does stretching, dynamic and static stretching, what role do those two play in this kind of training when you're doing that? How do they fit in, and where do you cycle them?
I would do my dynamic stretching before, and even in the first 10% of the workout, I'm still kind of in a dynamic stretching phase.
Okay.
Where I might be in my first set of running or doing some form of lift, but in between those lifts, I'm doing some form of movement just to help my body just become a little more limber, whether that's, type of butt kickers or leg swings where I'm actually kicking and, walking, with high legs, high knees, by stretching the back side by flexing the front side and vice versa. And then at the end, I like a nice, static stretch and just kind of a part of a cool down.
Gotcha. And where can people find these two things, the dynamic stretching and the static stretching that you recommend?
Well, they're in every book that I've written. I mean, these books here, Tactical Strength, that's in there, Tactical Fitness, all these books behind me. There's a chapter of static stretches and dynamic stretches in just about every one of them. But if you don't want to go through that, just go to YouTube, type in static stretching workout, dynamic stretching workout, and there are thousands of people showing you what dynamic and static stretches are. I have probably about 120 5-second videos of me doing a variety of exercises. Many of them are the dynamic stretches because it's easy to show a picture of a static stretch because it's just one picture. You go into the stretch position and you click. Where a dynamic stretch, there's a lot more movement going on, and sometimes a picture is worth 1,000 words, but a video picture is worth 10,000 words.
That's for sure. And Stu, one of the more I think not one, two of the more powerful things that you have developed over time is or are the lower back plan and the lightweight shoulder workout. So talk a little bit about those two, and then where people can find those two.
Sure.
Describe.
You like that one, huh?
Man, it saved me both.
The lightweight shoulder plan is awesome. I learned it from a physical therapist. So it is just a 5-pound dumbbell circuit of 6 exercises, 10 reps each. And I've been doing it now for almost 20 years, and 5 pounds is enough. And I don't have banged up shoulders. I used to, but this thing really did help me recover from some shoulder injuries in the past. That can be found on, do a Google search, Stu Smith lightweight shoulder workout. It's in my books. It's on YouTube. I went through the whole circuit on YouTube as well. You do a lightweight shoulder workout, Stu Smith search, you'll see it. The lower back plan, I have not gone through that entire lower back plan in a video, and I think I may do that. That's a good idea.
I think so.
There's several different options. You can just do the ab cycle, or you can do the full thing and work the lower back and the upper back thrown in there. And then there's a whole series of static stretches in there as well. But if you just do a Google search, Stu Smith lower back plan, it's a PDF file that you can download onto your phone, onto your computer, print it out, and there's probably about 50 pictures and exercises in there for you to follow.
And the name lower back plan, describe for a second, because it could be misleading to people thinking that it's just focusing on the lower back. So spend a moment and describe why you call it the lower back. And then when somebody looks at that PDF, they're going to see you'll have the dynamic stretching in there, then you have the lower back plan, and then you have the static stretching, so that all of it is in that PDF put in a nice place.
I probably could change the title of that now, but I will say this, that it started off with just a bunch of lower back exercises.
Exactly.
And then it evolved with adding some dynamic stretches. It added some static stretches. And then I also was thinking, this is real. I really need to be more of a full core exercise program. And if you think about what the core is, it's everything that attaches to the spine. So it has an abdominal section, has a lower back section, has oblique section, also has an upper back shoulder girdle section, which a lot of people don't consider part of the core, but it is. Your core is what's immediately touching your spine. And all of those things, from your hips to your shoulders are all part of your core training program that can get easily out of balance, especially if we are doing too many push-ups, too many sit-ups, a lot of heavy weight out in front, doing a lot of pushing exercises like bench press. You can really get internally rotated and, your upper back be completely imbalanced from your chest muscles.
All right, so let's move to another one here, Stu. This is something you said in an article recently titled "Predictors of Success in Military Spec Ops." So if somebody's interested in this article, just do a search on that. You said, "I was recently asked the following question by a few friends who are either active duty or tactical professionals, former tactical professionals," and this meant military, spec ops, police, SWAT, firefighters, etc. "Do you think there will ever be a measure or test or metric to predict the success of a candidate in these programs to train these tactical professionals?"
I've been asking this at least for the 20 years I've been involved in fitness and trying to figure out what type of person makes a good student that will be successful. And they haven't really figured it out to a degree where you could say, yes, you can come to training. No, you can't. Because there's one little element that I think they cannot measure, and that's someone's heart. All right, how much do you want to do something is a powerful motivator that can help you overcome some weaknesses, in your strength and abilities. It can help you overcome pain and injury. I mean, these things, I've seen guys make it through Hell Week on a broken leg. I mean, it's incredible. So there are some things that they're trying to do. And I think on a basic level, they have a fitness standard, before these schools that help you do one of two things. One, if you can reach a certain level on a fitness test, that tells them that you are physically capable of making it through the training. In other words, you won't get injured. You won't get rhabdomyolysis from overdoing it. You've just prepared your body sufficiently to make it through the training. And that's proven by science. It just is. I mean, obviously there are fluke accidents that, ankle sprains and knee injuries that occur from twisting, but overall, those fitness tests to get into the training are pretty important to predetermine success to a degree. Obviously there's a percentage of error that goes into that. The next one is the SEAL community has created the CSORT, which stands for the Computerized Special Operations Resiliency Test.
That's it, bud.
Yeah, which is just a computerized test, question and answers, fill in the blank, or not even fill in the blank, just multiple choice. And it's really has formed a statistical analysis of who makes it through training and who doesn't. And what they can do now after 10 years of using the CSORT is say that people from the East Coast, athlete and high school and college, Catholic, both parents in their house, some extra education beyond high school, work experience, all these little things, age, all these little things that come into play for a candidate. They can say this person has a higher percentage of making it through training than someone who is missing all of these elements. So,
and Stu, I shouldn't presume the answers here. what kind of the questions are they asking? So they're not physical questions because they have the physical test, but these questions, describe what these questions are like. You did
Yeah.
just a minute ago, but
Yeah, I mean, it puts you in, it just asks you questions, certain scenarios. How would you handle this? How would you handle that? What do you consider your, mood? Just it's a little bit of a psychology test.
yeah,
Like, I don't think it is something that will predict that someone's psychotic or anything like that. It's not that kind of psychology test. It's just a little bit of basics on who you are, how you think,
yes.
and those type of questions. So.
Yes. They also did a 3-year study, Stu, on candidates who attended BUDS and their scores. And you have a link to this study that was produced that's published on the SEALSWIC website. That's in that link to this article titled Predictors of Success. They were fascinating.
Oh, yeah.
All the data.
It's a really neat thing. And it kind of proves that it's a running man's game out there.
Boy, does it ever.
I mean, you have to be a good runner. However, you need a foundation of strength as well, because there are people that are getting hurt under a boat and log. If they might be an exceptional runner, but they might not have the core strength available for them to handle the boats and the logs without getting injured or in great pain every day. So but it really comes back to it's a running man's game.
That was the one. We all know that.
Yeah.
But to see the data and to see where if you excelled on 3 and 4 mile swims and 1,000-meter swims, 3 and 4 mile runs and 1,000-meter swims with fins, you had a much better chance of getting through. It was fascinating. Now you had to be able to do 20 pull-ups, but it was just fascinating to see that data. And so anyone that's interested in that, Stu, also spend a second, because I always thought 2 of the aspects that were required in the kinds of things that you and I have done was the one thing you mentioned, which was the mental toughness, and the goal oriented. You're just not going to quit. You signed up for this thing to do it. Not quitting isn't even an aspect of it. But I always thought there was this element of, can your body take the punishment? And one of the things you're pointing out is just preparing for the test, being able to do the test, gives an indication of whether your body can take the punishment or not.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I think like I said, it's kind of goes back to the 3 phases of tactical fitness and focusing on the first 2, getting to and through the training, right? Your body has to be prepared for this training, specifically. Something I was talking with some physiologists the other day from University of Pittsburgh, who are really looking hard at this exact question. And they are studying. In fact, I was also at a meeting with DARPA, who were trying to quantify mental toughness. Is there a way to quantify?
Why does that not surprise me?
Yeah, it was crazy. There were some smart people in that room.
I bet.
And it was anyway. And we didn't come out with an answer, put it that way. Probably some of the smartest people in the world are sitting in that room, and we're trying to talk about, can we give, a mental toughness grade to someone? And in the end, it kind of came out to, it's very difficult to measure someone's heart and want to.
So Stu, on these 2 questions, the one of mental toughness and your body's design, can your body do this? So it's often occurred to me, and I'm really curious to know what you're thinking. Your body is genetically built a certain way. And if I'm convinced, I'm curious whether you think there are people that just cannot do this because their body's not genetically built to do it.
I guess, I've seen all shapes and sizes make it through SEAL training. I would consider myself the average size guy, 6 feet, probably a little bit bigger than most at 195, 200 pounds when I was going through, and probably most for might be a little bit more wiry at 175, 180. But I've seen guys that were barely 5 feet tall and guys that are 6'5" make it through SEAL training. So I think there's a lot of diversity in the shapes and sizes that people that make it through. So, but I will say the majority are the average size guy at 5'10", 185 type, where you're kind of light still. You're not carrying a lot of weight with you on some of these events like running and, pull-ups and, things like that. So, some of those guys tend to do better. However, when you talk a little bit about genetically wired for this, that's what University of Pittsburgh's looking at. They're looking at genetics. They're looking at bone structure. They're looking at collagen levels and calcium levels in your bones, just because they also look at it as an indicator of injury prevention, right? Is there a certain level of some substance in your body or enzyme in your body that you may have that keeps you from getting injured more than the average person?
So let's move to mental toughness for a second, and let's explore the same question. Do you think everybody can develop the mental toughness they need to do this stuff?
Do I?
Yeah.
Good question, because that kind of goes back to the old debate of, are you born with it?
Yeah.
Or can you build it?
Yeah.
And I think it's a little bit of both. I think there are people that are just wired and I see them as children, just kids that are fearless, that are running around the playground, doing backflips off the slide. I mean, there are some kids that are just have a level of fearlessness to them and ability that it was God-given. However, translating that into completing a challenging tactical course like special ops, SWAT team, those type of hardcore programs, or just long events, Ironman triathlons, those type of things that are, that require significant endurance and ability. There's mental toughness that's involved with that too. So yes, I do think you can enhance it, but I think there has to be a certain level of it in you naturally. I think if you're a very cautious, maybe not very aggressive type person, that you are capable of becoming mentally tough at a drop of a hat, especially in fight or flight situations. Mm-hmm. I think that's kind of the borderline where you will see mental toughness come out in all of us. However, to do it day by day by day without having that fight or flight response, I think that may be a God-given and definitely personally enhanced through very, very hard training to kind of build up that resilience.
You know this from having known me a long time. My judge is, when things get bad, do you get better?
Very good question.
Right. And can you train yourself to get better the worse things get? Because that's to me the mark of your ability to control the factors. In my own case, the worse it gets, the better I get. But the little things can drive me crazy, where the big things don't drive me crazy. So we all have these weaknesses on both sides. But I've always thought, Stu, that if you can train yourself to get better as things get worse, then you're heading in the path.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Like I said, and it really comes down to training. It comes down to you finding ways to get stress inoculations in your life. And that basically means you go through a stressful event, you are actually stronger on the end of that stressful event.
Yes.
Just like our last couple of podcasts we talked about with mental toughness and, adding thinking games to your life just to make things a little bit tougher and a little bit more stressful. Engaging your brain in a way that, you are challenging it appropriately.
Yeah.
It's like, if you quit reading, you're not going to get any smarter. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You have to constantly keep training, and whether that is academically training, learning something about medicine or your body, or physically training, and then pushing yourself beyond that physical point to where you do have to engage that, how bad do I want to finish this moment in your training? And that's where you become more mentally tough every day.
Yeah, I always think, if I can keep things from feeling like they're really bad and they're just annoying, the difference between those two things is a big deal, right? And if you can get to the point where things just become annoying rather than terrible or disastrous or awful or bad, if you can keep yourself in that different plane of
Yes.
thinking. And
I personally have to engage mental toughness every day. Getting out of bed
with me, Stu,
and working out, and my first half mile to a mile of running, my body yells at me every step.
Mm-hmm.
And then something happens at that half mile to mile mark where my body's just now, okay, it's going to let me run without talking to me. And, we just carry on. But it's one of those things that I think, just dipping your foot into a swimming pool and you just don't want to get wet, but you go jump in anyway, not hitting that snooze button first thing in the morning, because you don't want to get up, and you do get up anyway, even though you're extremely comfortable and you can't be any more comfortable than you are right there at that moment, and you get up anyway. Those are little ways to build your mental toughness every single day.
Well, I think, and I may have this wrong, and I should really look it up, but I think it's Phil Black that says 10 minutes of anything is bad, is horrible or difficult or whatever. And I think that's right. The first 10 minutes of anything is not fun. I think it's something more that way. It's not fun.
I like that.
Yeah, it's a good saying. All right, buddy. I hate to tell you this, but you've run out of time. We're going to have to pick up another version of this because we're only halfway through our questions for this week. But
we'll do another one.
So, Stu, give everybody your email so they can get in touch with you to send these questions.
Right. We're thinking we're going to keep doing these podcasts because, one, they're fun, and I don't get to talk to Tom very much. He's a good friend of mine, and this is a good way to do that. And, so we're going to probably do these Ask Stu segments every 10 podcasts, perhaps. And if we get a whole bunch of questions and we need to throw in one at every fifth one, that's fine too, especially if they're really good. But yeah, email me, Stu at Stu Smith. And if you have any questions on, some of the things that we talked about, just go to Google.
Yeah, right.
Google is such a great way to find things on the lower back plan, the lightweight shoulder plan. But they're also in the books too. Tactical Fitness book, loaded with all these pictures and explanations of every exercise we discuss and more. Yeah,
and you have in the books, you actually have the links to the videos and all that stuff. So your books are comprehensive. And as I've said in a prior podcast, we do get questions about, you guys talk about things that we don't really know about, and they're in Stu's book, and specifically the last two books, the Strength and Tactical Fitness. They're really complete from end to end.
Cool.
All right, buddy.
I think we're done, Tom.
Tactical Fitness Report with Stu Smith, podcast number 10. Later, pal.
Sweet. We'll see you.